Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner and I have a very special guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your not so secret identity?
Oh, hello there. I'm Cissy Jones.
I love how professional it was.
I never know how cheeky I'm supposed to be.
That's fair. Well, I'm very happy to have you on the show. I'm super excited personally because you're in a lot of video games that I absolutely adore, and a lot of them we got copies of early, and we got to stream it for the fans early and stuff like that. So, um,
Nice.
definitely love a lot of your work, and I'm happy you can be here. But I have to start at first base. I can't go all the way to home run yet and get into the fun modern stuff. But for the fans out there that are not familiar with your work and how you got into the business, what initially sparked your interest into acting?
It's the most roundabout story in the whole world. I really wanted to be an actor when I was a kid, and my dad was like, "No." And so I have a business degree. I went to college at the University of Oregon, and I got a degree in business and Spanish, and I worked in the Silicon Valley for about 10 years. My last job was a particularly soul-sucking endeavor, and I always wanted to be a voice on The Simpsons. In fact, I was on vacation one summer with my now husband and some family, and we were talking about dream jobs, and I was like, I just want to be a voice on The Simpsons. It just sounds so awesome. But I thought you just had to live in Hollywood. Like, I didn't even know it was called voiceover. And 2 weeks later, I came home and I was getting ready for work one morning, and I heard Nancy Cartwright, who's the voice of Bart Simpson, on the radio talking about voiceover and how it's the greatest job ever. And oh, by the way, there's a school like an hour away from you. And I called that day and I started taking classes that week. And 2 years later, I had an agent and I quit my horrible job and I started doing voiceover. My first job out of the gate was for The Walking Dead, the Telltale series. I did Katja, who's the Belgian veterinarian. And then I was Jolene in the woods, and she was just crazy. And then I was also Bree, who was real angry about a lot of stuff. And then a couple other characters, and it just kind of grew from there.
What I love about your story is that we do get on a lot of voice actors who from the get go, they did theater, they did this, they did that, and they went into it full force. And so some of our audience, they're working office jobs as they're listening to us now, and they kind of give up on their dreams, or they don't pursue the things that they really love and they really enjoy. So I love hearing about experiences like that because it shows, hey, there's always time.
Yes, there's always time. And if you're willing to put in the work, um, who knows? Who knows what could happen? You know what I mean? Um, I actually really love that I came at it from a business angle because I understand that I am running a business. And there's a lot of actors I know that kind of miss that part. And it's really helped me a tremendous amount to actually to run this as a business. It's been really beneficial for me.
I can understand that too because for a lot of our fans, they'll come to me and they'll ask me, my thoughts or in terms of for advice or something, and they'll be like, "Well, I've submitted a few things," and it's like, "Do you have a demo? Do you have like
Yes.
social media? Like have you done anything to kind of start building a brand?" And it's like,
Yes.
what are you talking about? Like I just want to do some
Grants?
voices. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the one I have the hardest time with, and I get it all the time, is people tell me I have a great voice. And that's great, but no one cares. Like, what can you do with a great voice? Can you act? Can you give me something interestingly and believably? Because that's what's important. No one cares if you can do a million impressions, because they could probably just go get that person, or there's already somebody else working that does those impressions. So for anybody that's interested in this, learn acting, because that's the secret sauce.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people too, I find because I try and work with people that are new, or they don't have a lot of experience for stuff that I do for fun, not for like big professional AAA things, right?
Right.
And one thing that I find a lot is that maybe they're really good at ABC takes despite having no other basis for anything
Right.
else in voiceover. But they're like, no, I can't do it. I'm too nasally, or I can't do it because I hate the sound of my own voice. And it's funny because like I really think if a lot of people explored those options, they could actually get into it. And then you have the flip side of the people who are like, I have a great voice, but you have no technique whatsoever.
Yeah, totally. Well, and the funny thing about the people that say, I can't do it, I have a really nasally voice, is that sometimes nobody else hears that. But as soon as you point it out, that's all we hear, you know? I learned a very valuable lesson during a session one time where I did a take and I was like, oh, that was awful. Let me just do it again. And the director was like, oh, well, I kind of liked that. Maybe you should just do something different, you know? And it was like, okay. Don't give people a reason to hate it. Just be confident, and then if they want to change it, you change it.
Yeah, exactly. I think once again that's a great story for anyone who's getting started in the business. One thing I want to touch upon, because as I was doing research and stalking you in a nice way on the internet, uh, I found out for Firewatch, and if I don't mention it, people are going to come after me with pitchforks, that you actually got a chance to record with your partner, which is still
Yes.
pretty unusual for video
Yeah.
games.
It's funny. I just came from a session this morning, which is why I sound like a man. And it was a particularly scream heavy session. But we were just talking about, like, there's a relationship that has to exist between my character and a partner character, and how great it would be if the next session we could do an ensemble record, because it's so rare. But yeah, for Firewatch, it was actually a really cool experience from start to finish. But we recorded it chronologically, and Rich Summer, who plays Henry, and I live about a mile away from each other in Los Angeles, but we'd never met. And I'd never watched Mad Men. Please don't tell him I said that. And
We'll be quiet. I promise.
shh, don't blast this out to everybody. Oh, wait. But Sean Vanneman, who wrote the game, was like, well, what if we just kind of keep that aesthetic? And then we just start from the beginning when you guys don't know each other. And Cissy, you're in your home studio in your booth. And Rich, you're in your home studio in your booth. And we'll just Skype in. And that's how we recorded the entire game. Rich and I didn't meet until about a year and a half in to recording, which I just think is so cool,
I definitely think that's fantastic, because one thing that stands out for Firewatch, especially when, you have all this media where you have a bunch of different voice actors being involved, or you're listening to aspiring voice actors, they all try and do that I'm over the top anime voice. And so Firewatch has this realness to it. It's very subtle, and it makes the emotional impact of that game so much stronger, I feel.
I loved it. I love everything about it. I know there's a lot of qualms about the ending, and I won't give anything away, but I loved it. I love it. I love that you have to decide how you feel about Delilah based on her personality alone. You don't see if she's attractive or not attractive, or, whatever. I love it so much. I love it so much. And I am so honored to have been a part of it.
I mean, it's just it's something I don't want people to forget about, because with video game trends, people are on to the next and greatest. That's just kind of the way that it goes. So Firewatch is definitely a game that I hope a lot of people, if you haven't gotten a chance to try it, go try it. Don't watch somebody else play it. Go try it yourself.
And explore. Don't race through it and try to finish it in 2.5 hours. Like, actually take your time, because there's all these fun little side things that you can discover, and conversations that 10% of the people actually heard, and there's just some really good stuff in there.
Yeah, I remember I got a chance to play the demo. I think it was PlayStation Experience. All the shows kind of blend in together after so many years.
Yeah.
But I got a chance to play it early, and I remember I got lost in the woods, and I think one of the people on the team was behind me and going like, "Oh, you just got to get around this bend," and I fell off like a cliff or something. Because
Whoops.
whoopsie daisy. Because there's just so many ways to go, and there's so many small things that you can kind of find and interact with, and you get some
Yeah.
extra dialogue from that, which, as I said, makes it feel more real.
Yeah, yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was really a ton of fun to be a part of, and to work with that team, and to have the reception be what it was. I hope it's not a once in a lifetime experience, but gosh, it was really special.
Well, I'm sure maybe one day we'll get the Firewatch 2.
Right.
Delilah's Revenge. No.
Turt's Revenge.
But to the fans fans out there, are there any projects that recently came out or anything you're working on that you can talk about and promote?
Yeah, there's a lot actually that I can actually talk about. Where the Water Tastes Like Wine just released last week, which is another super cool little indie. And you walk around collecting stories in Depression America. It's really fascinating. It's totally gorgeous. And Sting is the voice of the main character, which is really cool. I'm also in Destiney 2. I'm Commander Sloane. She bosses you around a lot. And then they just announced Suicide Squad DVD, Hell to Pay, so I play Knockout, which is fun in that. There's just a ton of stuff constantly coming through the pipes.
Well, that's a good thing, though.
Yeah, it's great.
Even though it's making you sound like a man for today, it's still exciting.
What? Yeah.
Well, actually, mentioning that, I know that a lot of directors try and put like the screamo sessions, as they call them. I kind of knew the end of the week, so you have the weekend to rest and recover. Usually, but do you find those particularly difficult, or are there certain deaths that you just find absolutely brutal, or how do you prepare for those?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of it is making sure that you're used to talking for long periods of time. Because if I were to go in and try to do, a 3.5-hour session with 30 minutes of deaths at the end of it, you're done. You're done for. So I talk a lot. But it's always good to have a good open dialogue with your engineer. Like, hey, I'm going to be a little hot on this one, or I'm going to get super loud, man. Because then you don't have to worry about peeking out and having to redo the take. So that's fun. The ones I particularly don't love doing are fire death and electrocution death, because those are just hell on vocal cords. But sometimes they got to be done.
I can imagine fire, because it's a slow burn, right?
Yeah.
But
It's the louder and louder and crazier.
It's like rolling on the floor and everything else, but
Yeah.
electrocution, though, I'm trying to think. I mean, the only thing I can channel right is those old arcade games of like the Addams Family, where you put your hands on the thing and you had to keep them there. That's the best I can channel. I haven't.
I have a cheat for it. So if you take your hands and you clasp them together in front of you, like you have like your hands like you're in prayer, like deep prayer, but clasped tight, and then you start shaking them a whole lot, and then you just have the scream on top of that. That sounds like electrocution. So there you go. There's your pro tip for the day.
That's fantastic. I will take that in my pocket and use it later.
Nice.
If anything, it'll be good for scaring kids on Halloween.
Right?
But for the fans out there that want to, maybe see you in real life, do you have any like events coming up? Do you get a chance to go to conventions?
I don't do conventions in the typical sense. I have a family, so it's hard to leave for big chunks of time. I am going to GDC this year. I'll also be at PAX East. I'm doing a panel about how to make money in the video game industry. I'll do those every now and then, but I don't go to Dragon Con and Walker Stalker and stuff like that yet. There is a game coming out later this year that I can't talk at all about, but that one might have me doing a few cons.
Ooh, interesting. Well, obviously, I'm not going to ask. I don't want the NDA ninjas to break into your house.
Nope, because then I'd have to kill you.
Exactly. And I don't know. I'm enjoying life right now. I just finished watching the new Queer Eye for the Straight Guy thing, and I'm in a good mood.
So good. It's so good.
It actually is. I didn't watch the first iteration, but it's so positive and upbeat. And Netflix is like, you should watch this. This matches everything that you love. And I was like, fine. And then I sunk into the rabbit hole, and then I'm like, gosh darn it.
Yep.
But for the fans who can't meet you at GDC, because for if you get your ticket now, it's like $2,000 or something. If I remember correctly, it gets really expensive. Yeah. Is there a place they can follow you online, stalk you in a nice way, kind of like I did, but without business? Yeah.
Yes. I am on the Twitters at Cissy Speaks. I'm also on the Instagrams at Cissy Speaks, and I have a public Facebook page, but I don't really do much with it. My website is cissyjones.com, and I love hearing from people, so that's it.
Fantastic. I'll link those in our live chat for the listeners out there. And since we're nearing the end of this interview, I was wondering if you'd like to leave the fans with any words of wisdom, dating advice, predictions for the end of the world, anything fun like that.
God, now the pressure's on. Listen, I will say a couple things. I will say, go forth and be kind. There just needs to be more kindness in the world. Pay it forward, and also send the hive back to hell.
Ow. Thought this was a positive space, man. No, kidding. Well, no, thanks so much for today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reaching out. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And for any of the fans out there that missed any of this interview, don't fret. You can find it on the website within the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled to 918thefan.com and your ears tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.